Hi, it's Lily. How are you today? I hope you are all doing well. So today I want to talk about my experience living in Japan. If you saw my last video, you already know this and I'll go into more details in another video, but I'm an American who was born and raised in Japan. And I've been here pretty much my whole life. So yeah, I'm a blend of Japanese and American culture. Today I want to share my personal experiences and opinions about living here in Japan. Specifically, why I love living in rural Japan. When you ask foreign visitors or travelers, why do you like Japan? Oftentimes, many will say things like, I love the scenery, or I love the culture, and I agree 100%. I personally think Japan has some of the most beautiful places in the world, from the clear beaches of Okinawa all the way up to the gorgeous national parks of Hokkaido. And every detail of every tradition here in Japan is filled with beauty and meaning. But today, I want to dive deeper into why I love living in rural Japan. Let's talk about what I love about living in rural Japan. So, why do I love living in small Japanese towns? Well, there are actually many reasons. I grew up in a pretty small town in Japan, and now I'm currently living in an even smaller town further north. I've traveled quite a lot in Japan, and I've lived here and there, so I've seen and experienced a lot of Japanese countryside hospitality and culture over the years. And through my travels and experiences, I've realized Japanese hospitality and kindness is like no other. In general, in Japan, especially in more traditional areas, it's not very common to have people over to your house. House parties or barbecues aren't really that big of a thing here like they are in the States. Like many other places in the world, it takes time to develop relationships that you feel comfortable inviting people to your home here in Japan. That being said though, I've felt the most welcome and the most warm in Japanese homes. Because it's such an uncommon thing, when you put the time and the effort into it, and when you eventually develop trust and relationship with the community, the love and hospitality you receive is so amazing. I used to have a little farm with my brother back in my hometown, and we borrowed some unused rice fields in a small valley. There were just 3 houses in that valley, and of course at first the older ladies that lived there were very unsure of the weird gaijin, the foreigners. I wouldn't say they were scared of us, but they were definitely very skeptical. We had a farm there for approximately 5 years, and slowly with my brother helping them cut grass or giving them firewood or even just taking a little time to spend a few minutes talking to them, we started to develop trust and relationship. Once that trust was built, they were so kind and open and hospitable to us. They would always look out for us and our animals. I don't know if I'm wording this or explaining this well, but what I'm trying to say is that maybe compared to other countries, it takes a little bit longer to develop relationships here in Japan, but when you do take that time and you put in the effort, eventually it develops into something really, really special. Japan is all about community and they really care about each other. So once you are accepted into the community, you really feel the warmth of it. That being said, of course, not every community welcomes strangers with open arms, and I've had some bad experiences. But at our core, we are all just people, so I think in general, as long as you take the time to develop trust, anywhere, anyone can experience that warmth eventually. So since I moved to a new town last month, I'm back at stage 1 here in this town. I'm reminded every day about how important it is to first develop trust and then through time, relationship. Right now, I stick out, and everyone wonders who this new gaijin, this new foreigner in town is. I know it's going to take time, but through helping out in the community and developing friendship and relationship, I know that I'll be able to create beautiful bonds with the people in this town too. Last week, a lady who lives on my street gave me a huge daikon radish and said, come on over for tea sometime. And 2 weeks ago, I was invited to a new friends of a friend's house to enjoy delicious dinner and watch fireworks. Thanks to the people I already know here and their connections to the community, I'm making progress, so I'm very happy about that. Once you experience the hospitality and the kindness of Japanese people in the countryside, you'll learn to love Japan's countryside even more. Another reason why I love rural Japan is just the sheer amount of potential there is. Sadly, the population is significantly decreasing all over Japan. According to polls in 2020, 1 in 3 Japanese is over 60 years old. It's actually a really, really serious problem, and I'm pretty worried about it. I mean, the country I grew up in is literally disappearing. It's really sad. But amidst the population decline, there's also, I feel, infinite potential. There is so much that can be done. And that's probably the biggest reason I decided to start seriously pursuing my dreams of farming or homesteading, like living simply, self-sufficiently in Japan. There are just so many abandoned farms, forests, fields, and houses throughout Japan. I have struggled with my identity and figuring out who I am throughout my life. Many people here who are just a little bit different than the typical Japanese struggle with this too. I really want to build a place where young people can be creative and learn and be close to nature and feel like they have a place to call home. So I want to create a space like that here in Japan. And because Japan's countryside is so calm and beautiful, I think it would be perfect to build a place like that here. There has always been amazing potential like this in Japan, but I think now more than ever, especially with technology and the disconnect it is creating, the potential to do this is greater now. Many people claim that the future of Japan is quite dark, but I believe it's only dark if there's no light. I think Japan's countryside is full of light and potential. That's why I love it so much. I'm excited to see what wonderful things will happen in the next few years. And more than anything, I want to be a part of that as much as possible. This next reason is a little bit more personal for me, but another reason I love Japan's inaka, or countryside, is because I feel the most comfortable in myself when I'm in real Japan. As I mentioned before, I grew up in a small countryside town here in Japan, and as people, I think we are drawn to what feels like home to us and what we are used to. So since for me, the way of life and the scenery or rhythm in Japan's country towns is what I'm used to, it's also the most comfortable for me. Obviously, I enjoy visiting family in the States, and I even considered moving to the States earlier this year. It's so beautiful there, and there's so many different kinds of people and cultures there, and it's fun. And of course, anyone can adapt to and get used to new places, but after being in the States for 5 months in the early part of this year, I got really homesick. I started missing Japan, specifically Japan's countryside and the rural way of life here. Even just the way the houses looked was so different. I missed being in Japan's countryside. Also, I started missing the things that I just mentioned, like the hospitality and the kindness of the people. This year, leaving Japan for 5 months was the hardest thing for me to do, but it was really good for me because it forced me to let go of everything. And I stepped back and I was able to see Japan from a different perspective. I was able to realize how much I do love living in Japan and how much I want to be here. It's interesting because I've always had sort of a love-hate relationship with Japan all my life until now. Stepping away from Japan for a few months and looking at it from a new perspective has really shown me, without a doubt, that Japan is my home. And I want to make it my future home. And this is where I feel the most myself. And surprisingly, I never thought I would say this, but Japan is where I can be most myself also. Since all my family decided to live in the States, it's really scary to be all alone. And I'm always as positive as possible in my videos. But to be honest, it's tough. But because Japanese people are the way they are, and they are so kind and determined to help you once you've developed that friendship, I know that I'll be okay and I won't be lonely, at least eventually. I believe that through the help of the people here in Japan, I'll be able to create the space that I've always dreamed of. And hopefully through that, I can also give back to the community and people around me. I'm sure this inaka life, this countryside life, will make me stronger and better and tougher. Another reason why I love rural Japan, Japanese people are tough. People in the Japanese countryside have so many skills. They have developed ways of living and surviving in these rural areas for generations and generations, and that knowledge has passed down. I used to live in a warmer area of Japan. Now I'm in a much colder area, and the amount of toughness that the people in the colder areas have is insane and incredible. I really hope that I can get some of that toughness by living here and learn from the locals, because they are tough as nails and they have these amazing traditions and ways of food preservation, just amazing survival skills. So I'm hoping to become a sponge to absorb all that information and learn through them. I'm very excited for what the future holds. One more thing that I love about the Japanese countryside is that it's quiet, and in a good way, life is quite slow. I think it's the same in any other rural part of the world too, but things like money, nice clothes, or cars, those material things don't matter as much, and it's not the only focus here. Next time you visit Tokyo, take a look at people traveling to work. Look at their eyes. Everyone is so tired. I used to live in Tokyo for 3 years, and my eyes looked like everyone else's, just completely exhausted. Everyone rushes around and uses up all their energy to get to work. And when you're in that environment, it doesn't feel like there's much time to even breathe. But even just stepping away a little bit from the city into the countryside, things in Japan are much, much different. I would argue that people in the countryside here in Japan work as hard or even harder than those in the city, but it's definitely a different kind of work. There's still space to breathe here in the countryside. They still have space in their days and in their hearts to share with others, which is so lovely. And since I recently moved to a new town last month, I was able to be kind of reminded of this and kind of see it from a new angle. It's been hard, but it's been really, really amazing at the same time. Anyway, there are many, many more reasons why I love Japan's inaka, and I don't know if I've really done a good job explaining the ones that I haven't talked about. I feel like I'm starting to ramble, so now let's talk about you. Have you ever visited Japan? If so, what did you think of the countryside? What were some things that really stuck out to you? I'd love to hear your personal thoughts and experiences, so let me know below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I am planning on continuing to make videos on this channel, but also, if you're interested, please check out my Japanese channel for more of my life in Japan. Every video on that channel has English and Japanese subtitles. So please check it out if you have a chance. I usually do something called Lily's Inaka Nikki, Lily's Countryside Diary.
About to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out, die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Be free. Be free with me. Be free. Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for.
I'll see you in the next video. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.
This is as good a day as any to start the rebuilding of life. The roads that lay open are many when the old one's gone under the knife. And I can feel the sun on my skin.